The skies above Earth burned red. Alien warships, massive and cold, covered the horizon. Their shadows stretched across oceans and cities. To billions of humans below, the sky no longer belonged to Earth. It belonged to them. From every screen, from every radio, the same reports came. Another city has fallen. Defenses broken. We cannot hold them back. Humanity had always feared the day of invasion. Movies had shown it, books had warned it, leaders had prepared for it. But no one had imagined it would happen like this. Not with thunder and fire, but with silence and despair. The first strikes had been brutal. Entire fleets of human ships were destroyed in minutes. Satellites burned in orbit like falling stars. Great capitals, New York, Beijing, Moscow, London, were crushed under alien fire. And yet, after the chaos came something stranger. Human armies. What was left of them did not gather for one final stand. No great last battle came. The leaders of Earth, men and women whose words had once carried power, spoke little. No call for resistance was broadcast. No speeches of courage or defiance reached the people. Instead, silence fell from the top. The aliens expected surrender. They had seen it before. Every world they conquered followed the same path. A few weeks of battle, then a message of submission. Kneeling leaders, broken armies. The warlords of the stars had written this story many times. But Earth gave them nothing. Billions of humans waited in fear, staring at ruined streets, broken walls, and burning skies. They asked one another the same questions. Why is no one fighting back? Where is our army? Where are our leaders? And the whispers spread further. Was Earth already broken? Had humanity collapsed so quickly? Or was there something hidden, something waiting in the shadows? The alien commanders debated this in their cold chambers. Some laughed, calling humans weak. Too fragile to even beg for life. Others grew cautious. Silence was dangerous. A wounded beast was most dangerous when it looked weak. On the ground, human survivors moved strangely. Some wept in the streets. Some wandered aimlessly, their eyes empty, their voices silent. To the invaders, it looked like surrender without words, but to the few who knew humanity best, it was not surrender at all. Humanity had broken before. Through plagues, through wars, through starvation and fire, again and again, history had pushed humans to the edge. They had cracked, collapsed, screamed, and fallen. But each time they had risen again, different, stronger, stranger. The invaders could not understand this. To them, breaking was the end. For humans, breaking was only the beginning. Yet in those first days, even the humans themselves did not know what was coming. Children cried in basements. Parents tried to comfort them with voices that shook. Soldiers sat in the ruins of tanks, staring at skies they could not fight. Priests prayed, doctors healed, and ordinary men and women clung to what little life remained. Above them, the alien fleets waited. Their weapons were ready, but their hands paused. They wanted surrender, not slaughter. They wanted Earth's leaders to kneel and accept chains. But Earth stayed quiet. The silence became heavier than gunfire. Every day that passed without surrender made the aliens more uneasy. Every broken street, every silent home, every tear on a human's face became part of a question that no one could answer. Was this defeat, or was this something far worse? In the ruins of Washington, D.C., a lone broadcast station still worked. A single message was sent out to the world. Stand by. Do not resist. Do not surrender. No explanation. No strategy. Just those words. The message confused the people. How could they not resist and also not surrender? What did it mean? In space, the alien leaders studied the strange human behavior. They called meetings, argued in their tongue, and sent warnings to their soldiers. Be cautious. Do not underestimate them. Earth may look weak, but weakness can be a weapon. The galaxy had crushed countless civilizations before, and none had surprised them. But Earth was different. The silence of humanity was not empty. It was full of waiting. For the first time in their long reign of conquest, the invaders felt something they had never felt on a broken world. Doubt. The skies burned with their warships. The cities lay in ruins, and the people of Earth sat in silence. But the war was not over. The war had not even begun. Because sometimes The most dangerous weapon is the quiet before the storm. The world had once trusted its defenders. Soldiers in uniform, pilots in the skies, fleets across the seas. Humanity had built weapons for 100 years, waiting for wars with each other. But when the alien armadas came, none of those weapons mattered. Now the defenders of Earth sat in ruins. Tanks were crushed, planes destroyed before they left the ground, warships torn apart in the oceans. The proud armies of Earth had fallen in days. And yet, something strange began to happen. The soldiers who survived did not gather for a final attack. They did not march into cities to protect them. Many left their posts and walked away. Some threw down their weapons. Some sat in silence, staring at the skies where alien warships floated like gods. To the invaders, this was victory. "They are broken," the alien commanders said. "Their armies are finished. They will surrender soon." But the truth was different. The defenders were not finished. They were changing. On the streets of ruined cities, survivors saw soldiers sitting quietly beside them. Men and women who had once worn armor and carried rifles now sat with children, sharing food. A pilot with a broken arm gave away his last water to an old woman. A tank crew, their machine destroyed, walked through rubble helping strangers escape the fires. The armies of Earth were no longer armies. They were people again. And this confused the invaders more than any weapon. "Why are they not resisting?" alien officers asked. "Why do they not surrender?" No answer came. The aliens had fought countless wars across the galaxy. They knew the pattern. Defenders fought until hope was gone. Then leaders surrendered and peace, false, bitter peace, returned. But here on Earth, defenders fought until they broke, and then kept moving like ghosts who refused to die. Every ruined street held these broken defenders. They had no orders, no command, no generals to guide them. Yet they did not give in. They simply existed, silently, stubbornly, as if their presence alone was defiance. One alien scout recorded a group of soldiers in a burned-out neighborhood. Their weapons were useless, their uniforms torn, and yet they sat with civilians telling stories around a small fire in the night. The soldiers laughed quietly, even as alien warships passed overhead. "Why are they laughing?" the scout asked his commander. The commander had no answer. In the ruins of Europe, another strange sight spread. Soldiers who had lost everything, families, homes, nations, began digging gardens in the wreckage. They planted seeds, not weapons. They grew food, not war. To the aliens, this was madness. To humans, it was survival. Still, whispers spread through both sides. Among the aliens, they are finished. Among the humans, we are broken, but not done. The alien fleets grew impatient. They wanted surrender. They wanted to see humanity kneel, but Earth gave them silence. Every city they entered felt wrong. Soldiers were not fighting, but neither were they begging. Children hid, but their eyes were sharp. Old men limped through the streets, but their steps never stopped. And everywhere, those broken defenders moved like shadows, helping, watching, waiting. It was not the war the aliens had planned. It was something else, something they did not understand. At night, alien patrols reported strange things. Supply convoys went missing. Fires burned in abandoned buildings, then vanished. Soldiers swore they saw human figures in the darkness, only to find empty streets. The invaders laughed at the idea of resistance. But in their laughter, a seed of unease grew. Broken defenders could not be predicted. Broken defenders could not be controlled. In the silence of defeat, a new kind of strength was rising. A strength that came not from weapons or orders, but from the stubborn will to keep breathing, to keep walking, to keep existing when logic said they should fall. The world expected surrender. The aliens demanded surrender, but Earth gave them something else entirely. A broken army that refused to die, and soon the invaders would learn that broken things can still cut the deepest. High above Earth, inside the cold heart of the alien flagship, the War Council gathered. It was not the first time they had met to discuss a broken world. For centuries, they had conquered planets across the stars. Their pattern of war was always the same: strike fast, crush defenses, demand surrender. Most civilizations collapsed quickly, their leaders kneeling within days. The galaxy feared them, and for good reason. But Earth was different. The alien commanders stood around a glowing table, its surface showing maps of Earth's cities. Red lights marked every place already destroyed. Blue lights marked human armies, what was left of them. The blue lights were fading one by one. To any outsider, it looked like total victory. Yet there was no celebration in the council chamber. Only unease. Why do they not surrender? One commander demanded, slamming his claw against the table. They are finished. Their armies are broken, their leaders silent. Why do they not accept chains? Another commander hissed. Perhaps they are too weak to even beg. Their silence is proof of collapse. But an older voice rose, calm and sharp. No, weakness is not silence. Silence is something else. I do not like it. In the shadows of the chamber, younger officers whispered among themselves. These humans frighten me. They do not act like others we have crushed. They fall apart, yet they do not give up. It is as if their breaking is part of the fight. The whispers grew. Finally, the supreme warlord of the fleet spoke. His voice silenced the room. We have underestimated this species. They do not value strength as others do. Their weakness is their weapon. Some scoffed. Impossible. Weakness cannot win wars. But the warlord only stared at the map of Earth. The silence of humanity echoed even here, in the heart of their fleet. It was not the silence of defeat. It was the silence of something waiting, something hidden, something they had never faced before. On the surface of Earth, their confusion deepened. Alien patrols moved through empty streets, only to vanish in ambushes. Supply stations were attacked by humans who appeared broken one moment and deadly the next. A woman crying in the ruins could suddenly stab a soldier before collapsing again. A group of children, seemingly lost, led entire squads into traps. Reports flooded the council chamber. Enemy refuses to engage in open battle. Enemy disguises despair as surrender, then strikes. Enemy collapses, then rises again. The council grew restless. They could crush armies, but how do you crush a people who fought with their very despair? The warlord spoke once more. They are not unbreakable. That is not their strength. Their strength is worse. They break and keep moving. They fall and still fight. Even their surrender feels like a blade. The room fell silent. The galaxy's most feared conquerors, masters of war, now sat in unease before the thought of humanity. They had come expecting another simple conquest. Instead, they had walked into something alien to them, a species whose greatest weapon was its own collapse. And for the first time, the War Council wondered if they had made a mistake. In the stillness of the chamber, the map of Earth continued to glow. Cities burned, armies faded, but in the darkness of those ruins, something waited, something the Council could not yet see, something that would change the war forever. The ruins of Earth were filled with silence, but in that silence lived memory. The invaders believed they had broken humanity. They thought shattered cities, fallen armies, and silent leaders meant the end. But deep inside the broken streets, humans remembered something the aliens could not understand, what it truly meant to fall apart and rise again. Old men and women told stories to children in basements lit by candlelight. They spoke of times when Earth had nearly ended before, plagues that wiped out millions, wars that turned nations to dust, hunger that stretched across continents. Again and again, humans had suffered collapse, and each time the world had said the same thing: humanity is finished. But each time, humanity proved the world wrong. The aliens did not know this history. To them, war was simple: destroy armies, force surrender, move on. They had never faced a species that had survived its own destruction so many times before. In one ruined town, a young boy asked his grandfather, "Why do we not surrender? Why do we not fight back?" The old man, his face lined with years of memory, answered softly, "Because we have broken before, child. And we learned that breaking is not the end, it is the beginning." The boy did not fully understand, but the words stayed with him. Across the world, other survivors carried similar memories. Soldiers remembered wars where their side had been crushed, only to come back stronger years later. Families remembered losing everything in disasters only to rebuild with bare hands. Nations remembered being conquered, only to rise again after generations. The invaders thought Earth was weak. But weakness was not new to humans. Weakness had shaped them, scarred them, and taught them how to endure. Inside the alien council chambers, this truth was invisible. Their map showed a broken planet, not a living memory. Their spies recorded tears, not strength. Their commanders saw collapse, not survival. They could not see the hidden fire inside those memories, the fire that turned despair into defiance. One alien report described a strange encounter in Africa. An entire village had been destroyed. Only a few survivors remained, mostly elders and children. Instead of fleeing, the survivors gathered stones and rebuilt a wall around their burned homes. When asked why, one old woman had said, "We have done this before. We will do it again." The alien officer who recorded this report wrote in confusion, "They behave as if destruction is normal. They accept ruin as part of life. This is unnatural." But to humans, it was not unnatural. It was history. On another continent, a group of survivors sang songs in the night. The lyrics were old, from wars long past, about suffering, hope, and rising again. The aliens heard these voices and could not understand. Why sing when death hung above them? Why laugh when their world was falling apart? They did not know that humans had always sung in darkness. Songs were their weapons when nothing else remained. Even the youngest children carried these memories, passed down in stories and traditions. They did not see their parents' tears as weakness. They saw them as part of being human, to fall, to cry, to rise again. The aliens had no word for this kind of strength. They thought strength meant never breaking. They thought weakness was permanent. Humanity was teaching them something else. That strength is not about standing tall. Strength is about rising again after the fall. As days passed, the alien fleets grew restless. They wanted surrender. They wanted an end. But the silence of Earth continued. And behind that silence, the memories of old wars grew stronger. In a destroyed cathedral, a priest spoke to a crowd of survivors. His words were simple. "We have faced death before. We will face it again. But remember this. Every time humanity breaks, it learns how to survive. And survival is victory." The people listened, not with cheers, but with quiet nods. They understood. The invaders watched from afar, confused and unsettled. They could not see how dangerous memory could be. They could not see that every broken defender, every crying child, every silent family was carrying the weight of centuries. And that weight was not crushing them. It was shaping them. For the first time, the aliens began to whisper among themselves. Some feared Earth was planning a secret weapon. Others feared something worse, that the humans themselves were the weapon. Memories were dangerous things. And on Earth, memories had become fire. The alien fleets floated above Earth like steel clouds, their weapons always ready. They had expected a swift victory. They had expected humanity to kneel. Instead, weeks passed, and the silence of Earth only grew heavier. To the invaders, it looked like surrender without words. A world too broken to resist. A world finished. But they were wrong. Deep below the ruins, something was moving. Something silent. Something dangerous. In the shattered streets of Paris, alien patrols entered what they thought was an empty city. Buildings still burned and rubble filled the roads. No soldiers, no weapons, only shadows. The patrols walked carelessly, laughing at the weakness of humanity. Then the ground erupted. Hidden tunnels opened beneath their feet, and human fighters surged upward. They were not dressed as soldiers. Some wore broken uniforms, others wore rags, and some looked like ordinary survivors. But in their hands they carried weapons, rusted rifles, stolen alien guns, even sharpened blades. The patrols never returned. Across the world, the same thing happened. In New York, alien squads vanished without a trace. In Moscow, entire convoys were ambushed in empty streets. In Tokyo, small groups of broken civilians attacked soldiers at night, leaving nothing but silence behind. It was the turning point. The aliens had thought humanity's collapse meant the war was over. They did not see the truth. The collapse had been a mask, a trap. A new kind of war. Humans had let themselves look defeated so the invaders would lower their guard. The council of warlords in orbit raged with confusion. Reports filled their chambers. Convoy destroyed. Unknown attackers. Supply routes cut off. Enemy appears weak but strikes without warning. One commander slammed his fist on the table. This is impossible. They are broken. They should not be fighting at all. But the Supreme Warlord understood. His eyes narrowed as he whispered, "They are not fighting with strength. They are fighting with weakness. They are using their fall as their weapon." On the ground, human survivors became hunters. Children lured alien patrols into traps with fake cries. Mothers pretended to beg for mercy, only to draw soldiers into ambushes. Old men walked slowly in the streets, hiding explosives beneath their coats. The aliens could not fight this kind of war. Their weapons were made for battles in the open. Their fleets were designed to crush armies. But there were no armies left. Only shadows, only ghosts, only humans who looked broken, but struck like fire when touched. In the ruins of London, an alien squad surrounded what looked like a starving woman. She fell to her knees shaking, tears on her face. The soldiers lowered their weapons, laughing, and then the woman smiled. The blast tore through the street, destroying the squad in an instant. The survivors who saw it whispered the same words. "Our weakness is our strength." This idea spread like lightning through the broken defenders. Humanity had no leaders, no generals, no armies, but they had something far more dangerous. They had turned their surrender into strategy. Their collapse was not the end. It was the trap that would bleed the invaders dry. Alien commanders tried to adapt. They ordered stricter patrols, stronger guards, harsher control. But the more they tightened their grip, the more humans slipped through their fingers. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Every tear could mask a blade. Every broken defender was a weapon waiting to strike. In the deserts, in the forests, in the burned cities, a silent war had begun. And in this war, Earth was winning. The invaders had planned to break humanity with fear. Instead, humanity had broken itself first, and in doing so, became untouchable. The turning point had come. For the first time, the aliens were not asking when humanity would surrender. They were asking something far more dangerous. What will humanity do next? Night fell across Earth, but it was not the same night as before. The skies still glowed with the fire of alien warships, and the ruins of cities still burned. But something new moved in the shadows, something quiet, something deadly. The silent war had begun. Alien patrols marched through empty streets, their armor shining under broken streetlights. They spoke to each other in low voices, mocking the weakness of humanity. But as the hours passed, fear crept into their words. Too many patrols had gone missing. Too many squads had vanished without a trace. At first, the commanders thought it was human armies regrouping. But they soon discovered the truth. There were no armies. There were no generals. There were only survivors, ordinary men and women who refused to die. And those survivors were striking in silence. In the forests of South America, alien supply convoys were ambushed. Not by soldiers, but by farmers with stolen rifles. In the ruins of Berlin, groups of children threw rocks at patrols, distracting them long enough for hidden fighters to attack. In Africa, entire villages appeared abandoned. But when alien soldiers entered, they never returned. The aliens called it madness. Humans called it survival. The Supreme Warlord in orbit read the reports with growing unease. Enemy refuses open battle. Enemy does not surrender. Enemy attacks from shadow. It was a war unlike any they had fought before. Their empire knew how to crush strength. They did not know how to fight weakness. One night in the ruins of Tokyo, an alien officer walked through the rubble with his squad. He saw a woman kneeling in the dirt, her hands covering her face. She was crying, her shoulders shaking. The officer lifted his weapon but hesitated. She was no soldier. She was broken. Then the ground beneath him exploded. From the smoke, humans rose, striking fast, vanishing just as quickly. The officer never had time to fire. His last thought was confusion. How can broken people fight like this? This became the pattern everywhere. Humans never fought long. They never fought loudly. A single strike, a single explosion, a single ambush, and then silence again. The invaders called them ghosts of Earth. They could not be tracked. They could not be predicted. Every ruined street, every dark corner, every broken home became a battlefield, and the silence was the most terrifying part. The aliens were used to victory cries, to desperate screams, to battles filled with noise, but Earth gave them only silence, the sound of nothing, until suddenly the silence shattered with fire, and then returned again. It broke their courage. Alien soldiers began to fear the ruins. They feared the civilians who stared too long. They feared the children who cried at night. They feared the old men who walked slowly down the street. Because on Earth, every tear, every laugh, every silence could be a trap. One commander demanded answers. Why do they fight like this? Why do they not surrender and live? But no one could answer. For humans, it was simple. They had nothing left to lose. Their homes were gone. Their armies destroyed. Their world in flames. All that remained was survival, and survival meant turning weakness into a weapon. In the deserts of Australia, a group of humans dug deep pits and covered them with sand. Entire alien transports vanished into the earth. In America, survivors used underground tunnels to strike patrols and disappear like shadows. In Europe, entire cities became mazes where every broken building hid danger. The aliens had the skies. They had the weapons. They had the fleets. But Earth now had the ground. And on the ground, in the silence, humans were kings. The silent strike spread like fire. It was not a war of numbers. It was not a war of machines. It was a war of patience. A war of fear. A war fought by ghosts who refused to vanish. In their great council, the alien warlords argued again. "This is not war," one said. "No," the supreme warlord replied. "This is worse than war. This is humanity, and humanity does not fight as others do." The council fell silent. Below them, on the ground, another ambush struck. Another patrol was erased. Another silence followed, and slowly, the conquerors of the galaxy began to feel something they had never known before on a broken world. Not victory, not pride, fear. The warlords had promised their empire a quick victory. Earth was supposed to fall in days. Its people were supposed to kneel in fear, begging for mercy. But now, months had passed. The alien fleets still hung above the burning planet, but victory had slipped through their claws. It was not because of Earth's armies. They were gone. Not because of Earth's weapons. They were broken. It was because of something else. Something the invaders could not understand. Humanity refused to die. Every day, their reports grew worse. Entire patrols gone missing. Supply depots destroyed. Warships crippled by sabotage. The silent strikes had become storms, spreading from city to city, country to country. The invaders controlled the skies. But the ground belonged to the ghosts of Earth. In New York, broken skyscrapers became sniper towers. In the jungles of South America, fire traps burned whole battalions alive. In Siberia, the snow swallowed armored convoys and never returned them. The aliens had numbers. They had machines. But they could not fight shadows. The supreme warlord gathered his commanders in the great chamber of the flagship. His voice was sharp, his face cold. "You told me this world was weak," he growled. "You told me these creatures would break." The room fell silent. None dared to answer. They all remembered the first days, when Earth's cities crumbled, when humanity seemed finished, when it looked like only surrender could save them. But now the very thing they mocked, human weakness, had become their greatest terror. The supreme warlord slammed his hand on the table. "We are not losing to armies," he shouted. "We are losing to hunger, to shadows, to silence," one commander whispered. "They are not fighting to win. They are fighting so we cannot." That truth spread through the alien ranks like poison. Soldiers stopped sleeping. Officers refused to lead night patrols. Fear ate them from the inside, and Earth's survivors saw it. In the ruined streets of London, a boy watched an alien patrol retreat without firing a shot. In the mountains of Pakistan, Hidden fighters listened as soldiers argued among themselves, too afraid to continue. The invincible army of the galaxy was breaking. The humans had no flag to rally under. No leader giving speeches, no armies marching in lines. But their spirit was everywhere, like fire under the ashes. And that spirit was turning the war. One night, above the ruins of Paris, 3 alien ships fell from the sky in flames. Not from Earth's weapons, but from sabotage. Humans had climbed aboard, hidden for days, waiting, striking at the perfect moment. The Empire called it betrayal. The humans called it survival. Soon, even the alien fleets were not safe. Docking bays exploded. Supply ships vanished. Command signals were jammed. It was as if Earth itself had turned against them. The Supreme Warlord stared at the planet below. His empire had conquered hundreds of worlds, enslaved countless species. None had resisted like this. None had forced them into fear. Why? He whispered. Why do they not surrender? Why do they not accept defeat? A single answer came from one of his advisors. Because surrender for them is worse than death. The warlord said nothing. Deep inside, he understood. And he knew then, Earth was not a weak world. It was a trap. A trap that had lured his armies into ruin. The invaders began pulling back. Not all at once. Slowly, quietly. First the patrols, then the supply lines, then the fleets. They told themselves it was strategy, but in truth it was fear. They were leaving. The humans, broken and starving, saw the skies grow emptier. They heard fewer engines, fewer patrols, fewer threats. The silence was still there, but now it belonged to them. Across the ruins, survivors whispered to each other. They are running. They are afraid. We broke them, and for the first time since the war began, hope returned. The ghosts of Earth had done the impossible. With no armies, no leaders, no weapons strong enough to win a battle, they had turned fear into their greatest weapon. The invaders had come to break Earth. But in the end, it was Earth that broke them. The skies of Earth grew quiet. One by one, the alien warships pulled back. First the patrol ships, then the heavy cruisers, then even the mighty flagships that once blotted out the sun. The fleets that had burned cities, destroyed armies, and silenced nations were retreating into the stars. At first, humanity did not believe it. Survivors in the ruins looked up, expecting another wave of fire, another storm of destruction. But none came. Instead, they saw the impossible. The invaders were running, not defeated in glorious battle, not crushed by Earth's armies, but running from the very people they had once called weak. Across the ruins of the world, whispers spread. Families hiding in basements stepped into the open. Children peeked from shattered windows. Fighters emerged from the shadows of forests and caves, and all of them watched as the conquerors of the galaxy fled. On the flagship, the Supreme Warlord stood at the command deck, his eyes locked on the broken planet below. His empire had won countless wars, but this was the first time he had truly been beaten, not by weapons, not by numbers, by spirit. "Never again," he muttered, his voice bitter. "We will never return to this cursed world." His advisors said nothing. They knew the truth. Earth had become something far more dangerous than a battlefield. It had become a lesson, and that lesson would echo across the galaxy. Far below, the survivors gathered among the ruins. Their cities were gone, their armies destroyed, their skies scarred forever. But they stood together, alive. No leader rose to claim victory. No flag waved in triumph. Humanity had no speeches to give, but they had survived. That was enough. In the ruins of New York, an old man whispered to a group of children. They came to break us. They thought we would surrender, but we did not, and now they fear us. In the forests of Brazil, fighters shared stolen food in silence, their eyes glowing with pride. They thought Earth was weak, one said. Now the stars will know the truth. In the deserts of Africa, survivors lit fires, not for warmth, but as signals. From hill to hill, the flames spread, telling all who still lived, "We are here. We remain." The galaxy watched. News of Earth's defiance spread faster than light. To distant empires, To enslaved species, to those who had long bowed before the invaders, it was a spark of hope. If humanity could stand against the strongest, then maybe others could too. For the first time in centuries, the empire of the warlords was not feared. It was questioned. It was doubted. And doubt was a poison they could not stop. On Earth, life would not return to normal. Too much had been lost. Too many cities lay in ashes. Too many families were gone. But from that silence, something new began. Humanity had been broken, yes. But in being broken, they had discovered a power they never knew they had. Not strength of armies, not might of weapons, but the unshakable will to fight, even when everything was lost. The invaders had come to Earth expecting surrender. Instead, they had been taught the most important lesson of all. Humans do not surrender. And so the story of Earth spread through the stars. A world once seen as fragile was now whispered about as unbreakable. A species once mocked as weak was now feared as something far worse, something that could never be defeated, even in ruin. The invaders left in silence. Humanity remained in silence, but in that silence, the universe learned to tremble, because the broken world had survived, and survival was the sharpest weapon of all.